The diplomatic station Harmony Point floated in empty space between two worlds. Half the station belonged to humans. The other half belonged to the Zephyrians. Captain Jake Sullivan walked down the long hallway that connected both sides. His black uniform was clean and pressed. His duty was simple: keep the peace talks running smoothly. Jake had been a soldier once. He fought in the border wars against the Zephyrians 5 years ago. Now he was a diplomat. The change felt strange sometimes. Instead of shooting at aliens, he had to smile and shake their hands. The Zephyrian delegation had arrived 3 days ago. Their ship was massive and silver. It made the human ships look like toys. The aliens themselves were tall and thin. Their skin was pale blue. Their eyes were large and dark. They moved with grace that humans could never match. Princess Lyrelith was different from the others. She was the third daughter of Emperor Thakmor. While other Zephyrians stayed formal and cold, she asked questions. She wanted to know about human food, human music, human books. Her curiosity surprised Jake. "Captain Sullivan," she said one morning. Her voice was soft but clear. "I have read about your people's history. You fight many wars among yourselves, yet you also help each other in times of need. How is this possible?" Jake paused. Most Zephyrians asked about military strength or trade routes. Nobody had ever asked him about human nature. "We're complicated," Jake said. "We fight, but we also forgive. We make mistakes, but we learn from them. Maybe that's what makes us human." Princess Lyrelith tilted her head. Her dark eyes studied his face. "Complicated," she repeated. "Yes, I think I understand." The weeks passed slowly. The peace talks moved forward bit by bit. Both sides argued about trade rights and border controls. The princess attended every meeting. She rarely spoke, but Jake noticed she watched everything. She paid special attention to how humans solved problems. One evening, Jake found her in the station's garden. The artificial trees and flowers reminded him of Earth. The princess stood before a rose bush. She had never seen real flowers before. "They are beautiful," she said without turning around. "But they have thorns." Another human contradiction. "Beauty often comes with pain," Jake said. He stood beside her. "The best things in life usually do." She looked at him then. For the first time, her formal mask slipped away. Jake saw something vulnerable in her eyes. Something lonely. "On my world, everything is planned," she said. "Who I marry, what I study, how I spend my time. There are no roses with thorns. There are no contradictions. Everything is perfect." "Perfect sounds boring," Jake said. Princess Lyrelith smiled. It was a real smile, not the diplomatic one she used in meetings. "Yes," she said. "Very boring." They began meeting in the garden every evening. At first, they talked about their worlds. The princess told him about Zephyrian science and art. Jake shared stories about human exploration and discovery. Slowly, their conversations became more personal. "Your people fear death," she observed one night. "Yet this fear makes you brave. My people live for hundreds of years. We have forgotten how to value time." "Maybe that's why we're so restless," Jake said. "We know our time is short. We want to make it count." The princess was quiet for a long moment. "I envy that," she finally said. "The passion. The urgency. We have lost such things." Jake felt something stir in his chest. This alien princess, with her perfect manners and royal blood, was more human than many humans he knew. She questioned everything. She wanted to understand. She refused to accept easy answers. 3 months into the talks, something changed between them. Jake couldn't say when it happened. Maybe it was the night she laughed at his joke about military food. Maybe it was when she shared her favorite Zephyrian poem. Maybe it was when she asked him to teach her how to dance like a human. They danced in the empty garden under artificial stars. Her movements were too graceful, too perfect. Jake's steps were clumsy by comparison. But when she stumbled trying to follow his lead, they both laughed. For a moment, she was just a woman learning to dance. He was just a man trying to teach her. "This is forbidden," she whispered as they swayed together. "I know," Jake said. "My father would have you killed." "I know. We come from different worlds, different species. This cannot work." Jake stopped dancing. He looked into her dark eyes. "Maybe it can't work forever," he said. "But it's working right now." She reached up and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his skin. "You make me feel alive," she said. "For the first time in my life, I feel truly alive." That night, they crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. In the quiet of her quarters, they discovered that love needed no translation. Hearts spoke the same language across the galaxy. For 6 weeks they lived in a bubble of stolen time. They met in secret. They shared dreams and fears. Jake learned that beneath her royal training, Princess Lyrillith was brilliant and kind and funny. She discovered that humans could be gentle as well as fierce, but all bubbles must burst. The peace talks ended with a treaty. Both sides claimed victory. The Zephyrian delegation prepared to return home. Princess Lyrillith packed her belongings with steady hands, but Jake saw the sadness in her eyes. "This was always temporary," she said on their last night together. "I am a princess. You are a human. Some barriers cannot be crossed," Jake wanted to argue. He wanted to fight for what they had. But he also understood duty. He had been a soldier long enough to know that some battles could not be won. "I don't regret it," he said. "Neither do I," she replied. They said goodbye in the garden where they first really talked. The artificial roses bloomed around them, beautiful and thorned. Princess Lyrillith boarded her ship the next morning. Jake watched it disappear into the darkness of space. He thought that was the end of their story. He was wrong. Princess Lyrillith stood perfectly still as Dr. Kethavara ran the medical scanner over her body. The device hummed softly in the quiet of the royal medical chamber. 3 months had passed since her return from Harmony Point. 3 months of pretending that nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The doctor's face went pale as he read the scanner results. His hands shook as he adjusted the settings and scanned again. The second reading was the same as the first. "Your Highness," Dr. Kethavara said carefully, "when did you last have contact with an alien species?" Lyrillith's heart jumped, but her face remained calm. Royal training had taught her to hide her emotions. "During the peace talks, obviously." "Why do you ask?" The doctor set down his scanner. His dark eyes were worried. "You are with child, Princess, but the genetic patterns are unusual." "Unusual how?" "The child carries DNA that is not fully Zephyrian." "This should be impossible. Our biology rejects foreign genetic material. Yet the tests are clear." "You carry a hybrid child." The room felt cold suddenly. Lyrillith sat down slowly on the examination table. Her mind raced through possibilities, but she already knew the truth. "The child was Jake's. How long?" she asked. "Approximately 3 months. The child appears healthy, but Princess, this situation is unprecedented. I must inform your father immediately." "No," Lyrillith said quickly. "Not yet. I need time to understand what this means." But Dr. Kethavara was already reaching for his communication device. Royal protocol was clear. Any threat to the royal bloodline must be reported at once. Emperor Thakmor arrived within the hour. His tall frame filled the doorway as he entered the medical chamber. His pale blue skin was darker than usual with anger. General Zix Theron followed behind him, his hand resting on his weapon. "Explain," the Emperor commanded. Dr. Kethavara showed him the test results. He explained the genetic impossibility of what they were seeing. The Emperor's face grew darker with each word. "Who is the father?" Thakmor asked his daughter. Lyrillith lifted her chin. "I will not say." "You will say, or I will have every male in the diplomatic mission executed until you do." The threat was real. Lyrillith knew her father well enough to know he would follow through. She could not let innocent people die for her choices. "Captain Jake Sullivan," she said quietly. "A human diplomat." The silence that followed was deafening. General Zixatheron's eyes widened in shock. Dr. Kethavara took a step backward. Emperor Thakmor's face went through several emotions before settling on pure rage. "A human," he said slowly. "My daughter carries the child of a primitive human." "Jake is not primitive," Lyrillith said. "He is intelligent and kind and—" "Silence." The Emperor's voice echoed off the chamber walls. "You have disgraced our family, our entire species, the royal bloodline contaminated with inferior human genetics. The child could be remarkable," Lyrillith said desperately. "Human adaptability combined with our longevity and mental abilities. Think of the possibilities." "I am thinking of them," Thakmor said coldly, "and they terrify me. No hybrid abomination will carry royal blood. The pregnancy will be terminated immediately." "No," Lyrillith stood up. "I will not allow it. You have no choice in this matter." Dr. Kethavara cleared his throat nervously. "Your Majesty, the pregnancy is too advanced for safe termination. Any attempt could kill the princess." Emperor Thakmor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly calm. Then we eliminate the problem at its source. General, issue a death warrant for Captain Jake Sullivan. Make it look like an accident. Father, please, Laralith begged. Jake doesn't even know about the child. He is innocent in this. He violated my daughter. That is crime enough. General Zixtheron bowed. It will be done, my emperor. And Laralith Thakmor turned to his daughter. You will remain in your quarters until this matter is resolved. For your own protection, of course, house arrest. Laralith understood. She was a prisoner now. After they left, she sat alone in the medical chamber. Her hand moved to her stomach. The child growing inside her was barely noticeable yet, but she could feel a strange warmth there. Part Jake, part herself. A bridge between two worlds. She had to warn him somehow. Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, Jake Sullivan was reviewing supply reports in his small office on mining station Delta 7. His reassignment to the outer colonies had been sudden but not unexpected. Diplomats were moved around frequently to prevent them from forming too many personal attachments. The irony was bitter. He had already formed the deepest attachment of his life. His communication device beeped. An encrypted message from an unknown sender. Jake almost deleted it, but something made him pause. He opened the file. Captain Sullivan. You are in danger. The Zephyrian Emperor has issued a death warrant. Leave your current location immediately. Trust no one. A friend. Jake read the message 3 times. His military training kicked in immediately. He began packing essential gear while his mind analyzed the threat. Who had sent the warning? How did they know about a Zephyrian death warrant? Then a terrible thought occurred to him. Lyralith. Something had happened to her. He activated his secure communication link and called Commander Lisa Brooks at Federation headquarters. She appeared on his screen, her brown hair pulled back in its usual professional style. Jake, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Lisa, I need a favor. Can you check for any unusual Zephyrian intelligence traffic in the last week? That's classified information. Why are you asking? Jake hesitated. He had never told anyone about his relationship with Princess Lyralith. I received a threat warning. It might be related to my time at Harmony Point. Lisa's expression grew serious. Give me an hour. I'll see what I can find. Jake spent that hour preparing for the worst. He packed light survival gear and checked his sidearm. When Lisa called back, her face was grim. Jake, sit down. I found something in the intercepted communications. There are references to a contamination of royal blood and orders to eliminate the human source. What did you do during those peace talks? I fell in love, Jake said simply. Lisa's eyes widened. With the princess? Jake, are you insane? Probably. But Lisa, if they're talking about contamination of royal blood, she's pregnant. Lisa finished. Oh, Jake, this is bigger than just a death warrant. This could start another war. What do I do? Run, hide. Let me work on getting you official protection. But Jake, if the Emperor wants you dead, nowhere in Federation space will be safe for long. The connection ended just as alarms began sounding throughout the mining station. Jake looked out his small window and saw 3 ships approaching. They were not human ships. He grabbed his gear and ran. Behind him, the first explosion shook the station. The hunt had begun. On Zerion Prime, Princess Lyralith sat in her locked quarters and felt her child move for the first time. It was barely a flutter, like butterfly wings against her ribs, but in that moment she made a promise. I will protect you, she whispered. Both of you. No matter what it costs. Outside her window, the twin moons of her homeworld cast pale light across the royal gardens. Somewhere among the stars, the father of her child was running for his life. Somewhere in the palace, her father was planning murder. The child moved again, stronger this time. Lyralith smiled despite her tears. Jake had been right about one thing. The best things in life came with thorns. Love, hope, new life. They all required courage to embrace. She was about to discover just how much courage she possessed. Jake Sullivan crouched behind a stack of cargo containers as another explosion rocked mining station Delta 7. Smoke filled the corridors. Emergency lights flashed red in the darkness. The Zephyrian ships had opened fire without warning. Through the chaos, Jake heard boots running on metal floors. The attackers were inside the station now. He checked his weapon and counted his remaining ammunition. Not enough for a real fight. A shadow moved past the container where he hid. Jake held his breath. The figure was tall and thin like all Zephyrians, but this one moved differently. Faster. Deadlier. An assassin. The figure stopped and turned toward Jake's hiding spot. Pale blue skin was marked with ritual scars. Dark eyes scanned the area with predator focus. This had to be Sektar the Blade, the Emperor's personal killer. Jake waited until the assassin passed, then slipped out the opposite direction. He needed to reach the escape pods before the station's life support failed. Behind him, he heard Sektar's voice calling out in accented English. "Captain Sullivan, I know you are here. Make this easy on yourself. Come out and die with honor." Jake kept moving. Honor was a luxury he couldn't afford right now. The escape pod bay was 3 levels down. Jake took the maintenance shafts to avoid the main corridors. As he crawled through the narrow spaces, his mind raced. How had they found him so quickly? Who had sent the warning message? He reached the pod bay just as Agent Kelly Price arrived from the other direction. She was small and quick, with red hair and sharp green eyes. Her Federation intelligence uniform was torn and bloody. "Captain Sullivan," she said, "we need to go now. Who are you?" "Agent Price, Federation Intelligence. I sent you the warning. We've been monitoring Zephyrian communications for weeks." They climbed into the nearest escape pod. Kelly's fingers flew over the launch controls. Behind them, Jake heard metal being torn apart. Sektar was cutting through the bay doors. The pod launched just as the assassin burst into the bay. Through the small window, Jake saw Sektar raise a long-barreled energy weapon. The shot barely missed them as they accelerated away from the dying station. "Why help me?" Jake asked as they flew toward the nearest planet. "Because your child might be the key to preventing a war," Kelly said. "Or starting one. Either way, we need you alive to find out which." They landed on Kepler 7, a small farming colony on the edge of Federation space. Kelly led Jake to a safe house hidden among the grain storage facilities. Inside, a man with gray hair and tired eyes was waiting for them. "Admiral Pete Johnson," the man introduced himself, head of Colonial Defense. "We have a problem, Captain." Jake sat down heavily. "Besides the alien assassin trying to kill me. Much bigger than that. Our intelligence suggests the princess is pregnant with your child. A hybrid that could possess abilities we've never seen before. What kind of abilities? We don't know. But Dr. Elena Martinez at the research station on Titan 3 has been studying Zephyrian genetics. Her preliminary analysis suggests the child could have human adaptability, combined with Zephyrian psychic potential and longevity." Kelly activated a holographic display. Images of genetic sequences filled the air between them. If this child survives, it could change everything. The balance of power in this sector, the relationship between our species, the future of both civilizations. "And if it doesn't survive?" Jake asked. "Then Emperor Thakmor gets what he wants. No hybrid, no bridge between worlds, no threat to his pure bloodline." Admiral Johnson leaned forward. "We're offering you official protection, Captain. A new identity, a safe place to hide. In exchange, you help us monitor the situation. What about Princess Lyralith? She's under house arrest on Zerion Prime. We're working on establishing contact, but it's difficult. The Emperor has her completely isolated." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, farmers were harvesting the golden grain that fed half the outer colonies. Simple people living simple lives. He envied them. "I won't hide while she's in danger," he said. "Captain, be reasonable," Admiral Johnson said. "You can't fight an entire empire." "Maybe not. But I can try to save my family." Kelly pulled up another hologram. This one showed Zerion Prime, the Zephyrian homeworld. "Even if we could get you there, the palace is impossible to infiltrate, and the princess is being watched constantly. Then we find another way." That night, Jake lay awake thinking about Lyralith. Was she afraid? Was the baby healthy? Did she know he was fighting to reach her? On Zerion Prime, Princess Lyralith sat in her locked quarters and wondered the same things about Jake. Her cousin Veltara had visited that afternoon with news from the royal
court. "Father grows more paranoid each day,"
Veltara had whispered. "He sees human influence everywhere. Some of the younger nobles are beginning to question his extreme response. Can you get a message to Jake? Too dangerous. But Lyralith, there are those of us who believe this child represents hope, not horror. High Priestess Yithnara spoke of an ancient prophecy about unity between the stars. Father doesn't believe in prophecies. No, but the people do, and public opinion matters even in an empire." Now Lyralith placed her hands on her growing belly. 5 months along, the pregnancy was becoming obvious. Soon even loose robes wouldn't hide it. The child kicked strongly as if responding to her touch. She smiled despite her situation. Whatever abilities this baby possessed, its spirit was already fierce. Like its father, a soft chime indicated someone at her door. Lyrillith quickly moved away from the window and tried to look composed. Dr. Kethavara entered, carrying his medical equipment. Time for your examination. Princess? As he ran his scans, the doctor's expression grew more amazed each week. The child's development is unprecedented. Brain activity is already higher than normal Zephyrian infants. And these energy readings, what energy readings? The child appears to be generating low-level psychic fields. Nothing dangerous, but it's affecting the medical equipment. Lyrillith felt a chill of fear mixed with wonder. What was her child becoming? Dr. Kethavara finished his examination and prepared to leave. At the door, he turned back. Princess, there are those in the medical community who believe this child could be remarkable. A bridge between our species, as you said. Not all of us agree with your father's response. After he left, Lyrillith realized she might have more allies than she thought. The question was whether they would act when the time came. Back on Kepler 7, Jake was making plans of his own. He studied star charts and shipping routes, looking for any way to reach Zarian Prime undetected. Kelly found him in the communication room at dawn. You're going to try it, aren't you? The suicide mission to rescue a princess. She's not just a princess. She's the mother of my child. And you're not just a diplomat. You're a former Marine with a death wish. Jake looked at her seriously. Will you help me? Kelly was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled grimly. I must be as crazy as you are. But yes, I'll help. We'll need a ship, weapons, and a miracle. I can provide the first two. Admiral Johnson said from the doorway. You'll have to find your own miracle. As the three of them began planning the impossible rescue, none of them knew that Sektar the Blade was already on his way to Kepler 7. The assassin had failed once. He would not fail again. And on Zarian Prime, Emperor Thakmor was making plans of his own. If he could not kill the human father immediately, he would use him as bait. When Jake Sullivan came for his family, the Emperor would be waiting. The hunt was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Professor Ben Lewis adjusted his glasses and stared at the ancient Zephyrian text on his computer screen. The old historian had spent 30 years studying alien cultures, but these writings were unlike anything he had seen before. Fascinating, he muttered to himself in his cluttered office on Earth's lunar base. Simply fascinating. Jake Sullivan and Agent Kelly Price had contacted him 3 days ago. They needed to understand Zephyrian society better, if they wanted to rescue Princess Lyrillith. Ben was the best expert they could find. The prophecy is quite clear, Ben explained over the video link. It speaks of a child born between the stars who will unite two peoples. The Zephyrians have known this prophecy for thousands of years. Do they take it seriously? Jake asked. The older generation dismisses it as superstition, but many young Zephyrians believe deeply in the old ways. If they learn about your child, they might see it as the fulfillment of ancient destiny. Kelly leaned forward. Could we use that somehow? Perhaps. But first you need allies inside the Empire. And that, my friends, is where things get interesting. Ben pulled up another document. I've been monitoring Zephyrian communication networks. There's growing opposition to Emperor Thakmor's extreme policies. Several noble houses are quietly questioning his leadership. On Zarian Prime, one of those nobles was making a dangerous decision. Veltara Keck stood in her private chambers, looking at the encrypted communication device in her hands. Using it meant treason. Not using it might mean watching her cousin die. She activated the device and sent a coded message to the Human Resistance Network. The princess needs help. Are you willing to deal with Zephyrian rebels? The answer came back within hours. Yes, what do you need? Veltara began planning the most dangerous rescue in galactic history. Meanwhile, in the sacred temple on the outskirts of Zarion's capital city, High Priestess Yithanara meditated before the ancient crystal formations. The old stones hummed with psychic energy that had guided her people for millennia. Recently, those stones had been singing of change, of a new presence in the world. The priestess had felt it during her prayers, a young soul touched by two different kinds of life. The prophesied child was real. When Veltara came to her with the rescue plan, Yithanara didn't hesitate. The temple will provide sanctuary, she said. But the child must be born here in the sacred chamber. The old prophecies demand it. The humans want to take the princess away from Zarian Prime. Then they misunderstand their role in destiny. The child belongs to both worlds. It must be born between them. Jake Sullivan wasn't thinking about prophecies as his ship approached the outer edge of Zephyrian space. Captain Steve Morgan had provided them with a fast courier vessel and a small team of Special Forces soldiers. The plan was simple in concept but nearly impossible to execute. They would infiltrate Zerion Prime during the Festival of Seven Moons, when security was focused on crowds rather than individuals. Veltara would create a diversion at the palace. In the confusion, they would extract the princess and escape to the temple sanctuary. "It's a terrible plan," Kelly said as they reviewed it one more time. "You have a better idea?" Jake asked. "No, that's what makes it terrible." Captain Morgan's voice came over the ship's communication system. "We're approaching the drop point. Remember, if this goes wrong, we were never here." "Understood," Jake said. He checked his equipment one final time. Zephyrian disguise, forged identification, and weapons that wouldn't show up on palace scanners. They launched the infiltration pod during a meteor shower that would hide their approach. As Jake descended toward the surface of the alien world, he thought about Lyralith. Was she still safe? Was their child healthy? In her quarters at the royal palace, Princess Lyralith felt her baby kick and wondered if Jake was thinking about them too. 7 months pregnant now, she could barely hide her condition. The baby was strong and active, sometimes moving so vigorously that it disrupted the electronic systems in her room. Dr. Kethvara had been amazed during yesterday's examination. "The child's psychic development is extraordinary. It's already responding to your emotional state and affecting nearby technology." That gave Lyralith an idea. If her baby could affect electronic systems, maybe it could help her escape. She placed her hands on her belly and concentrated on feelings of freedom and movement. Slowly, the lock on her door began to malfunction. The electronic circuits flickered and sparked. But before she could act, her cousin Veltara appeared at her window. The younger woman had climbed up the palace wall using the ancient handholds that had been carved for ceremonies. "It's time," Veltara whispered as she climbed inside. "Your human is here. Jake is on Zerion Prime, with friends. But we must move quickly. Father suspects something." Veltara helped Lyralith into a servant's robe that would hide her pregnancy. They slipped out through the servant passages that Veltara had used as a child to explore the palace. In the throne room, Emperor Thakmor was receiving reports from General Zix Theron. "Sektar lost the humans' trail near the outer colonies, but our sensors have detected an unauthorized ship in our space. Could it be Sullivan?" "Possibly. I've increased security around the princess, but what? Some of the guards are asking questions about why she's being held. Word is spreading that she carries a child." The Emperor's face darkened. "Then we accelerate our timeline. The princess will be moved to the secure facility on the Dark Moon. The child will be terminated there, away from public eyes. And if Sullivan comes for her, we'll be waiting." But Jake was already inside the palace, following the route that Veltara had provided. The Festival of Seven Moons filled the corridors with noise and celebration. Guards were distracted by the crowds outside. He reached the princess's quarters to find them empty. For a moment, his heart stopped. Had he come too late? Then Kelly's voice whispered in his earpiece. "Jake, we have movement in the lower levels. Multiple figures heading toward the old temple district." Jake smiled grimly. Lyralith had escaped on her own. He should have known she wouldn't wait to be rescued. But their troubles were far from over. As Jake made his way toward the temple, alarms began sounding throughout the palace. Emperor Thakmor had discovered his daughter was missing. In the sacred temple, High Priestess Yithnara prepared the ancient chamber for what might be the most important birth in galactic history. The crystal formations glowed brighter as Princess Lyralith approached, responding to the hybrid child she carried. "The stones sing of great change," the priestess told Veltara. "But change always brings danger." Outside the temple, Imperial forces were surrounding the building. Inside, Jake finally reunited with the woman he loved. "You came," Lyralith said as he took her in his arms. "I promised I would protect you both," Jake replied. "I always keep my promises." The princess smiled and placed his hand on her belly. The baby moved under his touch, and Jake felt a strange warmth spread through his palm. His child, part human, part alien, and somehow more than both. "What happens now?" he asked. High Priestess Yithnara answered from the chamber entrance. "Now the child chooses its moment to be born. and we discover whether the prophecies speak truth or merely wishful thinking. Outside, Emperor Thakmor's voice echoed through amplified speakers. "Return my daughter, and I will allow the rest of you to live." Jake looked at Lyrelith, then at their allies. A Zephyrian priestess, a noble rebel, human special forces, and an intelligence agent. The strangest alliance in galactic history, united by love and hope. "We're not going anywhere," Jake called back. "This child belongs to both our peoples. It's time you accepted that." The Emperor's response was to order his troops to storm the temple. As the first energy blasts hit the ancient walls, Princess Lyrelith doubled over in pain. Her labor had begun. The ancient temple walls shook as Emperor Thakmor's forces fired their weapons. Energy blasts scorched the sacred stones, but the crystal formations absorbed much of the damage. High Priestess Yithnara had chosen this sanctuary well. Inside the inner chamber, Princess Lyrelith gripped Jake's hand as another contraction swept through her body. The labor pains had started suddenly when the attack began, as if the baby sensed the danger and wanted to be born. "The child comes quickly," Yithnara said, checking Lyrelith's condition. "Hybrid pregnancies are unpredictable. We must be ready for anything." Outside the chamber, Captain Steve Morgan and his team held defensive positions. Agent Kelly Price coordinated their efforts while monitoring Imperial troop movements on her scanner. "They have us surrounded," she reported, "but they're not pushing the attack. The Emperor doesn't want to risk damaging the temple too badly." Veltara understood why. Father may be angry, but he's not stupid. Destroying a sacred temple would turn even his supporters against him. Another explosion rocked the building, closer this time. Through the ancient crystal windows, they could see Imperial ships hovering overhead. More troops were arriving every minute. In the capital city, word was spreading despite the Emperor's attempts at secrecy. The festival crowds had seen the military mobilization. Rumors flew through the streets. The princess was missing. Humans had invaded the sacred temple. A prophesied child was about to be born. Young Prince Kethval, Lyrelith's brother, heard the rumors in the royal gardens, where he was supposed to be celebrating the festival. Unlike his father, Kethval had always admired human determination and ingenuity. When he learned that his sister was giving birth to a hybrid child, his first thought was wonder, not disgust. He made a decision that would change everything. In the temple, Lyrelith's labor progressed rapidly. The crystal formations around the chamber began to glow brighter, responding to the approaching birth. Yithnara had seen many strange things in her long life, but never anything like this. "The stones sing," she whispered in amazement. They recognized the child. Jake felt helpless as he watched Lyrelith struggle. All his military training meant nothing here. He could fight enemies and solve problems, but he couldn't ease her pain or speed the birth. "Jake?" Lyrelith gasped between contractions. "If something happens to me—" "Nothing will happen," he said firmly. "You're the strongest person I know. Promise me you'll tell our child about both worlds. Human curiosity and Zephyrian wisdom. Promise me they'll know where they come from." "I promise, but you'll tell them yourself." Another blast shook the temple. This time, cracks appeared in the outer walls. Emperor Thakmor was losing patience. "Surrender now," his amplified voice commanded. "This is your final warning." Kelly activated her communication device. "Admiral Johnson, we need backup now." "Human fleet is 3 hours out," came the reply. "Can you hold that long?" Before Kelly could answer, a new voice cut through the Imperial communication channels. Young Prince Kethval was broadcasting from the palace. "Citizens of Zerion Prime," his voice carried across the planet. "You have heard rumors about events at the sacred temple. I am here to tell you the truth." In the temple, everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. "My sister, Princess Lyrelith, is giving birth to a child fathered by a human diplomat. This child represents the fulfillment of our oldest prophecy, a bridge between worlds born of love rather than conquest." Emperor Thakmor's furious voice interrupted the broadcast. "Kethval, return to your quarters immediately." But the young prince continued. "Our father would have you believe this child is an abomination. I say it is a gift. Humans and Zephyrians working together, not as enemies but as family. Is this not what we have always hoped for?" The broadcast was cut off, but the damage was done. Throughout the Empire, people were talking. Some supported the Emperor's position, but many others found themselves curious about this hybrid child. In the temple chamber, Lyrelith felt the final stage of labor beginning. The crystal formations were glowing so brightly now that they lit the entire room. "The child comes," Yithanara announced. Jake held Lyrillith's hand and watched in amazement as their son was born. The baby's first cry echoed through the chamber, and something extraordinary happened. The psychic resonance of that cry, amplified by the ancient crystals, spread out across Xerion Prime and beyond. Every Zephyrian within range felt it, a pure burst of emotion that carried both human determination and Zephyrian consciousness. For the first time in their lives, the Zephyrians experienced what it felt like to be human. They felt Jake's fierce protectiveness, Lyrillith's overwhelming love, and the baby's innocent wonder at the world. The emotional connection lasted only seconds, but it changed everything. In the Imperial ship surrounding the temple, soldiers lowered their weapons in confusion. The feeling they had just experienced was unlike anything in their training. It was raw and powerful and completely alien to their controlled society. Emperor Thakmor felt it too, standing in his command ship above the temple. For a brief moment, he experienced Jake Sullivan's love for Lyrillith and his desperate desire to protect his family. The Emperor staggered, overwhelmed by emotions he had never allowed himself to feel. "Sir?" General Zixtheron asked. "Your orders?" Thakmor was silent for a long moment, struggling to process what he had experienced. That burst of feeling had shown him something he had forgotten. That love could be a source of strength rather than weakness. In the temple, Jake held his newborn son for the first time. The baby was perfect, clearly part Zephyrian with pale blue skin and large dark eyes, but with human features that showed Jake's heritage. Most remarkably, the child seemed aware of everything around him, his eyes focusing on faces with unusual intelligence. "Aiden," Lyrillith said softly. "His name is Aiden Vexa Sullivan." The baby made soft sounds and the crystals around them pulsed gently in response. Yithanara smiled. "He speaks to the stones," she said. "This child will be remarkable indeed." The temple had grown quiet. The Imperial forces had stopped their attack, confused by what they had experienced. In that moment of calm, a new voice came over the communication system. "This is Admiral Grace Turner, of the Human Colonial Fleet. We have arrived at Xerion Prime and request immediate ceasefire. Negotiations." Emperor Thakmor looked out at the human ships that had just dropped out of hyperspace. They were outnumbered, but the psychic experience had left him questioning everything he thought he knew about humans. "Father," Prince Kethval's voice came from behind him. The young man had arrived on the command ship despite orders to remain in the palace. "The people are gathering in the capital square. They want to see the child." "This changes nothing," Thakmor said, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. "It changes everything," Kethval replied. "That child is your grandchild. Half Zephyrian royal blood, half human determination. Think of what they could become." In the temple, Jake faced the hardest decision of his life. He could try to escape with his family, but that would mean running forever. Or he could trust that the psychic connection had changed things enough to make peace. "Possible. I'm going to surrender," he told. "Kelly, that's suicide," she protested. "Maybe, but I need to talk to the Emperor face to face."
As one father to another, Lyrillith squeezed his hand.
"I'm coming with you. You just gave birth. You need to rest. I'm a Zephyrian princess. I'll rest when my family is safe." An hour later, Jake Sullivan walked out of the temple carrying his son. Princess Lyrillith walked beside him, supported by Yithanara and Veltara. Captain Morgan and his team followed, weapons lowered but ready. Emperor Thakmor waited in the temple courtyard, surrounded by his guards. The two men faced each other across a gulf of species and culture, connected by a child who belonged to both worlds. "You have caused me great trouble." "Human," the Emperor said. "I fell in love with your daughter," Jake replied. "In any culture, that should be cause for celebration, not war." Thakmor stepped closer, studying the baby in Jake's arms. Baby Aiden looked back at his grandfather with curious eyes, making soft sounds that seemed almost like words. "He has my daughter's eyes," the Emperor said quietly. "And my stubborn streak." "I'm afraid," Jake said. Despite everything, Thakmor almost smiled. That combination could be dangerous. Or remarkable. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment, remembering the burst of human emotion he had felt. The fierce love, the protective instinct, the willingness to sacrifice everything for family, these were not the traits of a primitive species. "You would die for this child," he observed, without hesitation. "And for my daughter?" Without question, Emperor Thakmor looked at his daughter, who was watching the exchange with hope and fear. He thought about the ancient prophecies, the growing opposition to his rule, and the strange new feelings he had experienced. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "it is time for the Zephyrian Empire to try something new." 1 year later, Aidan Vexus Sullivan celebrated his first birthday in the royal gardens of Zarian Prime. Human and Zephyrian officials attended the celebration, which had become a symbol of the new cooperation between the two species. Emperor Thakmor held his grandson while Jake and Lyrillith watched nearby. The old emperor had changed in the past year, becoming less rigid and more open to new ideas. He was still stern and formal, but he had learned to express love in